Why do you believe that? Because, you idiot. Because it is. And you don't know what you're talking about. That is a no-legged belief. Hello, you little God-fearers and God-fearettes. How are you doing? Today I'm talking about attachments. Yes, attachments. Are they good? Are they bad? What are they? And how do you spot them? And how do you know that you've got an attachment? And how do I know that I've got one? I'll tell you all about it on the other side. So as I mentioned in the last video, I made a video a little while ago called Who Made God Then? And it was a question that one of the viewers asked me. Could you ask the emissaries about who made God? Okay, so that's why I made it. I didn't make the video to kind of persuade people that God exists. That wasn't the purpose. Like, I made the video for people who already believe that God exists and just wondered where he might have come from, or she, or it, or they. However, because the channel's gone really well, YouTube's spreading it around, lots and lots of people were deeply, deeply disappointed with my lack of logic in what I was saying. I wasn't being scientific, and I was just saying stuff. Somebody, in fact, more than one person, that is a lie, that's a load of rubbish, there's absolute no sense in what you're saying. Okay? Which, fair enough, you know, it's not for everybody, is it? God's not for everyone. Or is he? Maybe. And that made me think that I wanted to talk about attachments. Attachments. And we all have them. We all become attached to things. But I want to talk about being attached to beliefs. That reminds me of the disciples who went to the guru and said, Guru, we've got the potential to be able to use the internet. Can we, for example, can we send emails? And the guru says, yes, you can send emails, but with no attachments. So what are attachments and how do attachments work? Well, attachments are this. You have a belief, and that belief becomes so strong within you that nothing can touch it. In fact, you won't allow anything to touch it. The difference between an attachment and a belief, just a belief, is that the attachment creates fear, anxiety, and worry. Why? Because an attachment isn't a true belief. It's something that you've taken on and that you are worried is not strong enough. And so what you have to do is you have to attach yourself to it. You have to grab it firmly because it isn't based on a lot. It's kind of just like, well, like that. I'm going to be attached to that. There isn't any proof. There isn't any solid evidence. It's just an attachment, a belief that you've got. A belief that we have, even though we know that they're not true, they're not based on truth, but it's a belief, a strong belief. It's something that we have. And a few weeks ago, Gary and I were talking about not knowing anything by way of knowing a lot. Okay? The more that you study, the more that work that you put in to get information, the more you realize that you don't know. However, at the same time, it allows you to start forming beliefs that are very solid beliefs. And so let me show you the difference between, and this is how we know, this is what the emissaries were telling me when I was asking them, how do you know when you've got an attachment? This is how we know if we have an attachment, all right? I'm not talking about other people, right? We've got to sort our shit out. The other people will know. If they listened, they'll think, oh my God, maybe I've got an attachment as well. But this is not about other people. This is about us. Look at ourselves. So we've got one person who's got an attachment to a belief and one person who's got a solid fundamental belief. Okay? What happens? What happens? Well, you do a test and you go up to that person and you say, well, I don't believe what you're saying. I think that it's not X. I think it's Y. The person who has a strong belief based on an awful lot of study, etc., what happens is they say, well, that's really interesting. Tell me more about why you don't believe it. So what do you believe then? And they're actually interested in what the person's saying. Not only are they interested, but they're unaffected by what the person's saying. The person saying that their belief is no good doesn't shake them. They go, okay, fair enough. But just because you haven't done the work that I've done, you haven't done the study that I've done, you haven't lived the life that I have lived, and you haven't walked in my shoes. And therefore, that's your perception, super duper. That's what somebody does who has a strong belief that is based on a solid foundation. Same scenario with the person who has an attachment. What happens? Somebody goes up and goes, well, I don't like your belief, it's a load of rubbish, that's stupid. And this person says, I'm stupid. Well, you're stupid because look at your stupid fucking belief. You know nothing, you idiot, you dafty. You are. And apparently you're not allowed to say that word anymore. The R word, the re. And it sounds like turd on the end, yeah? Anyway, but that's what happens. Somebody who's got an attachment, how you know they've got an attachment is that they cannot take any criticism of their belief. They will react, and you can spot it because how they react is like a child does, who is angry, who is fearful. When somebody attacks your attachment, you become fearful because it's not stable, it's not strong. And so you have to protect it, and you have to shout at the person and call them names. What you get from the person who has a strong belief is that they listen, and then they start to give you information based on what they know. They say, well, you've said that, but you know what I've found, the way I look at it, the way I see it, okay? And so they will then give you the information. The person who has an attachment, you'll notice they don't have anything to back it up with. They don't have anything to say about it. All that they can do is to call you names, is to get angry, to shout, to storm out, to stamp their feet, everything that little children do. That's how they behave. The reason that they're different is this. The person who has beliefs, strong beliefs, they've spent a long time building them. And a belief is like a table. It's like a table. And for the table to stand strongly, it needs 4 legs. And if you imagine that the legs are beliefs, like very core beliefs. And so that top belief needs to have these beliefs or these premises that hold it up. And so many people's beliefs have 4 legs, 5 legs, 10 legs, and they can talk a lot. I tell you who I used to see that was like that. Charlie Kirk. When he would talk, people would say awful things to him. Terrible things, calling them names, just, all the attachment people, calling them names, saying stupid things. And he would come back with just information. Well, what about this? What about that? That's somebody who has very strong beliefs that they've built up over time. The person who has an attachment, well, their table, their belief, doesn't have 4 legs. It has 2 legs, or maybe even only 1. And so what happens is they have to spend their whole time, their whole energy holding up the table because it could fall if they don't bolster it, if they don't shout and scream, that table could fall. And the most important thing is the person who has beliefs will listen to what you're saying. It doesn't mean that you're going to change them. They've got a very strong belief, but their belief is so strong that they feel confident enough to listen to you giving something totally contradictory. Their belief is so strong. The person who has 1 leg on the table, they're terrified. They cannot listen to you. They can't hear you because if you say something that goes against that 1 leg that they've got holding this table up, they're fucked. And so what they would rather do is shout. If you'll notice, they will shout over so that they can't hear you. you try to say something and they'll shout, they'll call you names or whatever. And so it's that person, when you see that, two things you should know. One is they don't really believe what they're talking about. They're just parroting. They've learned some words and they're parroting, knowing that there's no basis behind them. And the other one is, you know that you will never fucking reach them. You will never get there. Why? There's more chance of reaching somebody who has a strong belief than there is reaching somebody who has a belief that's built on nothing, on sand. Why? Because they're so scared that they can't hear you. They're so scared that they won't hear you. They will not listen to you. And this is why it's very difficult for us to, this is why it's been impossible for us to be able to talk to people and to change their minds, because they've got one-legged tables. They've got beliefs that are so shallow that they know that they have nothing to back them up with. And so the only thing that they can do is to call you names, is to attack you, is to shout, or to divert and say, yeah, well, you say that, but what about this? That's the only thing they've got, because they can't talk about this one leg. Maybe some of the tables don't even have legs and they're just holding them up like a banner. Yeah, that we see. People walking along the streets with the banner that's been paid for by an NGO with all the same font. Everyone's got the same one. They've just been which one is it this week? Oh, it's about the life of the mother is much more important than the baby. Yeah, I'll put the life of the mother is much more important than the baby. And you go, why do you believe that? Because you idiot. Because it is. And you don't know what you're talking about. That is a no-legged belief. That is an attachment. And so many people, and the media just gives them out. Just gives them out for free. Have some attachments. Believe this today, but next week believe this. And everyone's walking around having to change the legs on the table. They don't know which friggin' leg is which. They just say, oh, just carry the table, and then they can tell me, they can give me a new table. There you are. And so the question is for us, where do we behave like a child? Where do we react when somebody questions what we do, what we believe, what we say? Do we act like they do and shout and call them names and get angry and stamp our feet and storm out? Or are we calm? That's how you know. If you've got an attachment, then A, you need to look and see, is that absolutely what I want to believe? Do I want to believe that? And if it is something you want to believe, start building the legs. Do the research. Do the investigation. Make it strong so that you don't need to react when people question it. And you just say, hey, each to their own. Good luck with yours. I'm very happy with mine. Thank you. So just do a moment of soul searching and ask yourself, where do you react like that? Where are you reacting like that? Or not? And what beliefs do you have that are solid and it doesn't matter what people say about them? Put them in the comments, please. I'd love to know what you react with and what beliefs there's no reaction because you know them. I'd be really interested to know. Thank you very much. I'll speak to you all later. Bye-bye. I love you all.